Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be going over the ab section of my custom Mandalorian armor. This section of the armor relies heavily on the chest section that I made in a previous video. If you guys are following along, you'll probably need to have that one in order to make this one. This part of the armor is a completely original design by me, and I tried to design it in a way that would make it easy to put on and easy to move around in. Really quickly, I want to say thank you to my Patreon supporters once again, and thanks to all of you guys as well for watching my videos and keeping up with my content. I'm really happy to be able to help you guys like this with the free templates and the tutorials and all that, and the revenue that I get from YouTube is not a whole lot, but it's definitely better than nothing, and it's a great encouragement for me, so thank you once again. The free template for this ab section will be uploaded soon, probably in a week or two, but if you didn't know already, I've uploaded the free template for the chest armor and the gauntlet armor. So check the description for more details, and let's get started. So the first section that we're going to make is this upper ab section. As you can see, I cut some V grooves along the back side of this plate, and that'll create a nice sort of angled effect that we'll see later. V grooves are really easy to make. I've talked about it before, but all you really need to do is angle your knife to the right and then make your cut. This time I used a ruler to get that straight line, but then all you have to do is go back and make a second cut in the same area, but angle your knife to the left this time. So you'll get sort of this V-shaped groove. And then all we have to do is put some hot glue in that groove and then fold it upwards and hold it there for a little bit until that glue dries, and then it will stay in shape. I didn't show making the lower ab plate, but it's really just a flat piece of foam that's been curved a little bit, so it's nothing complicated. And all you have to do is figure out kind of where you're going to line these two ab plates up in relation to the chest armor. And once you've figured out kind of where you're going to put them, you can start gluing the ab sections together. Now I decided to have them flex and kind of move around, so I decided to use elastic straps for this part to hold the ab sections together. The process is pretty self-explanatory, as you'll see in the video. Basically all I'm doing is gluing a strap from one piece of foam to the other, and because I'm using elastic to hold the foam together and I'm not actually gluing the foam armor pieces to each other, there's going to be a lot of flexing room and a lot of room for the foam to kind of twist and turn. For gluing the straps down, I decided to test out several different types of glue, and I found that it's probably best to use a combination of two different types. So you'll have like super glue in the middle and then hot glue around the edges, and I think that works pretty well. I also tried contact cement in the middle with hot glue around the edges, and that worked out pretty good as well. In the past, I've tried using just hot glue on its own to hold up a strap, and it usually will break after a few hours of work, so I don't recommend just putting hot glue down to hold a strap. And now I'm going to do the exact same thing by attaching this ab section to the chest armor itself. You'll want to be kind of careful about lining everything up. Be sure to measure and double check from the front to see how it looks, because you don't want to glue it together and then look at it in the end and see that something is crooked. And now let's move on to the back armor section, and this is a very easy piece to make. As you saw in the beginning of the video, it kind of curves with my spine, and if you want it to get like that, then you'll need to use EVA foam like I'm using here, because EVA foam is very easy to bend and curve, whereas if you were using cardboard, it would be much harder to do. Now let's move on to the side armor section, and this is going to sit in between the front ab section and the back armor. As you'll see later in the video, I actually attached it directly onto a strap that connects all of it together, so there's not really any foam on foam contact, which is very different from what I usually do. I wanted to make this suit a lot more comfortable to wear and a lot more easy to move around in, and for that to happen, I had to use a lot of elastic straps to hold everything together, and I can definitely say already that it's much more comfortable to wear than the Clone Trooper armor, just because the Clone Trooper armor has a lot of armor plates that restrict movement, and it makes it more difficult to wear, to move around in, and enjoy, I guess. So now I'm going to work on forming this armor with a heat gun, and I don't recommend doing this over a carpeted floor like I'm doing here. It can be pretty dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. Just don't put that silver tip on the end of the heat gun anywhere near a carpet or a fabric surface, as it can potentially catch fire. Now, using a heat gun to form the foam like this is a very simple process, but you just gotta be kind of careful not to burn your hands. For those of you that don't know, a heat gun is basically just a supercharged hairdryer. I believe it is normally used to help strip paint off of walls, so definitely don't dry your hair with this, and definitely don't touch that silver tip after you're done using it. I forgot to mention this earlier, but for the back plate, I did put in 2 V-grooves just like I did on the front ab armor. And then for that green piece, that's just a piece of 2mm foam that's been glued down right on top of the back armor. You'll also want to heat form those side panels in the same way as the back armor, just kind of heat them up and bend them inwardly. And now I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did to the ab armor and glue some straps onto it, and then glue it onto the back armor, just like I did with the abs. Now we have to connect the back armor together to the front ab section, and that's going to be accomplished by an elastic strap yet again. To get the correct length for the elastic strap, I'm just going to take this fabric ruler and stretch it around my body to see just how much length I need. And this is great because if you are a bigger or smaller person, then you can measure it out and just cut the amount of elastic that you will need without having to change the actual foam templates. So it's much easier to resize this template to fit your own body. I'm actually going to use 2 elastic straps here instead of just one big one because it's easier to work with, as we'll see in a little bit. Now you will want to mark down on the foam exactly where you plan to put down the straps because you don't want to have different lengths on either side. You want them to be perfectly symmetrical. Now I'm going to attach some velcro to the front to make it act sort of like a belt buckle. I admit that this didn't work out as well as I had planned it to, so you may want to use an actual belt buckle if you have one lying around. The only issue here was the strength of the velcro. It just wasn't enough to hold it together, so I probably will replace it with a belt buckle in the future. Now it's time to attach those side panels to both sides of the straps. You'll want to try to mark out the halfway point in the straps between the back armor and the ab armor, and then just glue it down about where you see fit. Now you'll notice that I'm gluing the side armor at a diagonal kind of angle. It's not just straight across that side armor, and I'm doing it this way because it looks better in the end. It ended up being parallel to the chest armor this way, but you can glue it on in whatever way you think looks best. So this next part of the build is just going to be optional. I decided not to use this piece, but I figured I would show it anyway since I recorded it, and it doesn't look bad in the end. My original plan was to have sort of a voice box attached to the inside of an ammo box that would sit along the front part of my chest armor, but that ended up being too big and it just looks out of place in the finished product, so I decided not to use it. But you can choose to build this and put it somewhere on your armor if that's what you want. I would just recommend making this box a little bit smaller so that it doesn't stick out too much and kind of just ruin the look of the costume. For those of you who are curious, I'll put the voice box link in the description where I got it on Amazon. It's not the best voice box in the world because it really doesn't change your voice at all. It's just a microphone that makes your voice louder, and it makes it easier for people to hear you outside of your helmet. I do plan to give a demonstration at some point on how good this voice box actually sounds, so be on the lookout for that video. It should be a pretty quick and easy video to cover. I will say that this voice box is pretty thick, so it can be difficult to hide it on your armor. I had a lot of issues when I tried to hide it under my chest. I think the sound was just bouncing around too much and it was causing a screeching sound. So I am still looking for ways to hide this voice box. I don't want to just clip it to my belt because then it would be really obvious that it's a voice box and it just wouldn't look right on the armor. But I'll think of something. So that about wraps up this video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like the video and tell me what you think of the armor so far. I still have a lot left to make for this suit, so stay tuned for those future videos. Once again, that free template for this section will be uploaded soon, but the chest template and the gauntlet template have been uploaded already, so go check out those templates if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.